Welcome to today's episode. We are discussing a really hot topic, no pun intended. We're talking about what if I don't find my husband attractive anymore? So, have you ever looked at your partner and wondered, why am I not as attracted to them as I used to be? I'm sure you have because it happens to everyone and it doesn't make you a bad partner. So, if you find yourself asking this question, I want you to stick around because we are going to dive into this topic and we are going to talk more about why this is, how it happens, sort of where it comes from, and what to do about it, what it means, what to do about it. So, if you're new to me, I'm Carrie Cohen, the host of the Midlife Marriage Podcast, and I work with women and couples. And one of my specialties is relationship anxiety. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this topic here. Okay, so one of the things that comes across my work from couples over the years is this idea of the longer the couple is together, they start to experience this kind of the flame starts to fizzle, right? Starts to kind of fizzle out. And that could be for a lot of reasons. Could be because you actually are not as attracted to your partner, but it could be lots of other things. And so oftentimes what happens is that the standards we are holding for our partner is a reflection of how we're actually judging ourselves and our own worth. So if you look at your partner and you think, they're just not as attractive or not as successful as I imagined they would be, does that mean I made a poor choice? So that level of doubt really has to do that you're doubting your partner's worth, really has to do with your own fear around what you think others think. It's really about external validation, and it's not at all about you and your relationship. And so many of these things end up being skewed and misinterpreted by us because these are not things oftentimes that people are talking about. You're not oftentimes hearing men or women speaking aloud about their loss of attraction to their partner. What you might see is couples who become more distant, they don't spend as much time together, they nitpick each other more. There's more criticism, there's more distance. Now, much of that actually doesn't necessarily come from loss of attraction, even though that is going to be part of the equation here for these kinds of couples. It really comes from not having a way to think about this and experience this in your relationship at this stage. And that's really what I want to talk about because relationships, marriages, they go through a lot of developmental evolutions. And there's going to be periods where you're going to feel very connected to your partner, very engaged with your partner. And then there are going to be periods where you don't feel so much of that. And if you start to question what that means without putting it in the greater context of where we were before and where we're heading, and you only look at it in isolation, you're going to be misinterpreting that because it's going to be out of context. And so that's one factor that I want us to really keep in mind as we're thinking about this. Another factor is that nitpicking and criticism oftentimes is a projection of our own insecurities. So projection, people use this word a lot in sort of in just pop psychology terms. Really, though, what projection actually means, technically, in the psychological realm, is that we are taking something about ourselves and we are putting that onto our partner. Okay. But it's our thing, it's our feeling, it's our experience, it's our idea. We're putting it onto our partner. And the reason why we're putting it onto our partner is because it is not acceptable to our own psyche. Our own psyche cannot bear this thought, this feeling, this experience. So we're going to project it outward onto our partner. Now, that is a form of communication. And if you're in a savvy couple, if you're part of a savvy couple psychologically, you might recognize that and say, okay, my partner is thinking and feeling and saying these things about me, but actually, I wonder if that's how they feel about themselves. Now, there's a second piece to this projection. It's when the partner or the recipient of the projection actually owns it and takes it on as if it's theirs, as if it belongs to them. So partner A starts projecting their own insecurities about their looks and about their level of success onto their partner. Partner B then starts to question their looks and their success. And it gets really confusing to the psyche around this idea of, are these my feelings about me? Because these feel a little bit foreign. I hadn't really thought about this before. And so a lot of times people throw around this term like, you're projecting. And so I do want to say though, that projection is a universal experience of communication in couples. And if we pay attention to it, we can learn a lot about our partners when it comes to that form of communication. Okay. So let's also go back to sort of attraction though. So, unfortunately, media has skewed our ideas of what relationships should look like, leading us to believe that they should be a certain way, they should sound a certain way. There should be a certain kind of amount of looks, intelligence, personality. All these things are necessary for happiness. And when I say Hollywood, I mean the movies. I don't actually mean the actors and actresses in Hollywood, because we all know that they struggle with their own relationships. And we don't usually find out until we see that they're getting a divorce. Because behind the scenes, there's a lot of pressure on these couples to be, look, act, feel a certain way. And when we put that much pressure on ourselves to be, look, act, feel a certain way, we are inevitably going to fail. We're not going to be able to meet those standards. So I really want you to think about shifting and reframing the way you are thinking about your relationship. Now, also, the other thing that I want to think about here with you in this episode is a myth that constant attraction is necessary. Okay. Attraction fluctuates, and it's unrealistic to expect that it's going to stay the same over the years. And I would say that about lots of aspects of marriage. And as I already said, Hollywood cultural conditioning does impact our view of attraction. Media is really portraying a very narrow, superficial definition of what attraction is. And so we need to be really, really mindful when we are playing that game. And so the other thing that's really important to consider is that attraction is not just about looks. It's about essence, the essence of who someone is. So when I meet with a couple, I always ask the couple this question. One of my first questions: what drew you to your partner? Half of them will say their looks, the other half will give me other features first. So aside from looks, because looks change, people could cut their hair, people could lose their tan. I mean, people could lose or gain weight, people could gain or lose muscle. So aesthetics are not permanent. Okay, so what drew you to your partner? So I'm going to ask you at this moment to really think about that. What drew you to your partner? What are the traits that drew you to your partner? And so another way to think about attraction is like a feeling of home with your partner. There's a magnetic pull to be with your partner as opposed to just a physical draw, just an aesthetic. Now, sure, we need to have chemistry, but chemistry is not just about how someone looks, right? Chemistry could include humor. It could include the way you look at each other. It could include the quirkiness. It could include your partner's scent, how their voice, their tone of voice. There's so many elements made up of the chemistry that you're going to experience in your relationship beside the aesthetic. So I think what happens is that many couples they start to get this very narrow view of attraction. And they think they're like 10 or 15 years in and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't really know that I'm attracted to my partner anymore. What does this mean? How are we going to continue on? I'm worried that this means we're doomed. I'm worried that I made a mistake marrying this person. And that then sort of links up to one of the other topics that I talk a lot about, which is relationship anxiety, when you start to second guess and have doubts about your partner. So I really want to encourage you, first off, to reframe this idea of attraction away from a physical aesthetic and into a feeling of being home with your partner. And next, I want you to think about all of the other traits that drew you to them, that pulled you in. Was it their humor, their kindness, their reliability? Like, I know for me, when I first met my husband, actually, we met at work. I hired him for a job. Some of you may know this story, but some of you don't. I hired him for a job. So we were not, and we were working together very closely. So we were not, we did not meet under the premise of we're going to date and potentially become life mates. So we developed a very strong connection and friendship, and really had the romantic part very compartmentalized because of the way that we met. And so many things about our relationship that drew me to him was his quirkiness, his sense of humor. He's so easygoing. My husband is a very gentle soul. He's a very thoughtful man. I quickly began to experience, or learn rather, that there were many attributes that he possessed that I didn't, that I could really learn from him about. I also knew that I could learn about love for him. Okay, so when we're thinking about the marriage evolving over the years, it's really, really important that you keep front of mind what drew you to your partner. And we could say attracted, but I don't want you to just be in your head about physical attraction, because attraction is many things, right? So I'm going to say, I want you to think about what drew you to your partner. And I would even encourage you to go so far as to have this conversation with your partner if you have the courage to go there with them. It's like, what drew you to me? So what I want you to do, if you are someone right now who's questioning your attraction to your partner, instead of saying, am I attracted to my partner? I want you to say, what draws me to my partner? So what draws you to your partner right now, right? What draws you? I mean, there's so many things that draw me to my husband, in addition to the fact that I think he's good looking, but many other things is that he takes care of me, he takes care of our house. He thinks about things that I don't think about, or that I don't have to think about. He's really funny. He likes to have a good time. There's lots and lots of things. Those are the things that are going to see your marriage through to the end of time, not the end for divorce, but there are the things that are going to see you through the end of time. And if you're in your head about their looks, then I really want you to make this reframe so that you could start to take into consideration how multifaceted romantic relationships really are. And remembering that beauty is actually temporary, but essence and character, those are the sustainable foundation for attraction. Actually, someone can aesthetically be really good looking and be a complete jerk. Okay. To me, I would not find that person good looking. And I might aesthetically at first sight think, oh, wow, that person's very, like, they're hot. But if they started to speak and their personality was not a good one, instantly that would draw me away from the person. And I would say that that's probably the case for most people, which really does go back to the case that I'm making, that physical attraction is very short term, it's very superficial, and it's one very surface aspect of the entire package, the whole enchilada of what draws you. So the other thing that I want to really talk about here also is the internal factors that affect attraction. So your own internal emotional states are going to influence attraction. And now I'm using that word attraction, I'm using it broadly. So I'm not using physical attraction, I'm using attraction to the essence of the person, which magnetizes you to them. So if you're an anxious person, when you're having anxious moments, that will have an impact on your attraction. When you're feeling stressed, whether you're an anxious person or not, when you're feeling stressed, that's going to have an impact on your in the moment attraction. If you are an avoidantly attached person, your attraction for your partner is going to wax and wane as the defense against getting close. So let me say that again. If you have an avoidant attachment style, how drawn, magnetized, attracted you are to your partner is going to wax and wane because it is going to be used subconsciously as a defense by your avoidantly attached self in order to manage the level of closeness. Because the reality is the more drawn you are to your partner, the more attracted, the more chemistry, the more magnetized you are to them, the more you're going to want to be with them, be close to them. And if you have an avoidant attachment style, that is going to spike your anxiety. And so you're going to back off and you're going to find ways to deactivate that level of intensity around your attraction. The other thing that I want to point out that also internal factors that address attraction is how you feel about yourself and how you think about yourself. Okay. If you're highly self-critical and you have high standards, you're going to absolutely place that on your partner. So if they are dressed in a way like you don't like what they're wearing, it's going to bother you and you're going to think, ugh, I'm just not attracted to them. Or if they are eating with their mouth open and that's grossing you out because you've got some internal thing around that, that's going to affect your attraction. Now, interestingly enough, these are things, could you imagine how much of a swing you would be doing if you allowed all those little things to really determine the foundational level of attraction that you have to your partner? So if you, what I really want to underscore in this episode is that physical attraction is one teeny tiny ingredient in the whole picture. So if you look at your partner and you all don't look the same as you did when you first got together because of any factor, or you're 10, 20, 30 years older, I want you to see that as one tiny factor, because what I really want you to look at is the essence of who they are, the character. What kind of human are they? What kind of partner are they? If you're a parent, what kind of father or mother are they? What kind of son or daughter are they to their parents? What kind of son or daughter are they to your parents? There is so much more that goes into this. So if you're struggling with this and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to like go on in this relationship. This is your opportunity and your invitation actually to reignite your attraction to your partner by reframing it and thinking about all of the facets, how multifaceted attraction is beyond just the physical aesthetics of someone. And so the other thing that I want to talk about projections for one more moment, because I also just want to say that I want to remind you that often what you dislike about your partner is going to mirror your own insecurities, and it's also going to tap into your own unmet needs. So if there are things about your partner that really bug you and irritate you, that's an opportunity for you to say, okay, what is it about my partner's the way they smack their lips when they're eating? What is it about that really triggers me and that really bothers me? And that makes me then create distance between them and see them as not attractive, because gosh, that's such like a tiny thing, right? In the grand scheme of things, of like, do you have a good human who's trustworthy, who's full of integrity, who makes you laugh, who is going to love you and take care of you no matter what? Who cares if they smack their lips, right? But if you are someone whose mind is organized in a way where you zero in on these little tiny issues, that says something more about you than it does about them. And it probably says something more about your own level of anxiety, whether you call it that or not. But maybe you lean on the type A side of the continuum, the perfectionist side of the continuum, the exceedingly high standard side of the continuum. And that is what we are going to see if you are someone who leans in that direction. And one of the things that I think is really helpful for couples, that I suggest to couples in many different circumstances, is having different types of visual reminders. So keep available to you photos of times when you and your partner were having a really good experience. Maybe you were on vacation. Maybe it was your wedding. Maybe it was if you're a parent, when your kids were born. Keep those photos handy so that when you are in a state of questioning and second guessing, you can access those photos as a vehicle to access the internal experience of what it is that actually draws you to your partner. Okay. We want to use that to conjure up and put front and center how we really feel about them. Like, where does that love really come from? Oh gosh, I remember this trip we took. We had so much fun. We had no schedule. We bopped around from place to place to place. And those are the kinds of memories that I want you to utilize to keep front and center. If you are someone who is going in and out of stages where you are second guessing and questioning your love, your connection, your attraction to your partner, I also want you to minimize your social media access and looking at other couples and how they look and how they're dressed and how they're looking at each other, because that is going to be just as skewed as what Hollywood is showing us. Okay. So I want you to minimize the exposure to things that are going to really skew your perspective in the direction that you don't actually want to be in. And I really also, just one other point, I just want to drive home the point that attraction ebbs and flows, which is fine. And if you can just come to terms with that's a reality, it ebbs and flows. And someone might say, well, it doesn't for me. Well, that's great. So in one partner, it doesn't for them, but in another partner, it might. But foundational love is going to grow deeper with time and shared experiences. And that is really what is going to continue to magnetize the attraction, the whole package attraction. And it's sort of one of the reasons why if your partner does something and you're mad at them and you're like, I just don't want to be with you right now. That if you can hold the foundation of what draws you to them in mind and be okay with that in the moment, like non-attraction to them, and not make that in the moment feeling mean something about the greater context of the relationship, because you're holding the foundational beliefs about shared experiences, the harmony in your personalities, the entire human experience of who your partner is. Those are going to be ways to really help you stay grounded and anchored in the long-term, long game view with your partner. So if this is something that you struggle with, I want to invite you to a couple of things. One is my Get Out of Your Head and Present in Love self-paced program, which within 7 days, okay, so it takes a lot longer than 7 days to do a 180 shift, but I will tell you, within 7 days, you will already start to feel the shifts of getting out of your head. If you're someone who lives in your head and it takes you out of being present with your partner, within 7 days, you will absolutely start to feel the shifts. And so I will invite you, I will put that in the show notes. And that you can do with your partner, without your partner, and it is self-paced. You could do it at your own time frame. I also, for the woman, have my group program, which is a 4-month deep dive into really, really getting out of your head and present in love. And so I'm going to put that link in the show notes also so that you can take a look. And if you have any questions or anything that you want to hear from me, you can either add a comment under the show, you can send me an email, send me a DM, whatever it is. My DMs are always open. Would love to hear from you. That is it for today's episode. And I will see